Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Advocacy Day Volunteer Committee informational webinar. We are really honored to have you here today or tonight. This is an opportunity for you to hear about Advocacy Day 2023 and what the Advocacy Day Committee is all about. The reason why we are hosting this webinar is because we need your help. We would love to have your involvement in helping to plan and organize our Advocacy Day in 2023. And this is your chance to learn about what it's like to volunteer for the day and the event, to ask questions, to hear from our co-chairs and the Resolve staff. So this is a fantastic opportunity for you to hear all about it and then make a decision on if you want to participate and what the next steps are. So I want to welcome you with wide open arms. We are really pleased to have you here. Every time somebody says, hey, I might be interested in volunteering, it's just music to my ears. For those of you who don't know my background, I was a Resolve volunteer for about 4 years before I joined the staff. So volunteering for this organization is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm very appreciative of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers across the country that do a number of things for Resolve. So let's jump right in. I'm going to share with you our, let's see, I've got to make sure I'm on the right screen here. I want to share with you our agenda for tonight. We're going to do some introductions. We're going to talk about the volunteer committee, what it is, what it does, how it's structured. We're going to talk about state captains. And then just some parting thoughts on our Advocacy Day 2023. And we'd love to have your questions as well. We are recording this, so it will be available for those who couldn't make it tonight. And if you have any interest in watching it again. So it'll be, I'm not sure where it'll be posted, but we'll send out a link to the video afterwards. So just a reminder on who Resolve is. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We were founded nearly 50 years ago. And on the screen there is our mission statement. Nonprofit organizations kind of live and die by their mission. And this is how we judge how we're doing against our mission. So I love the last 3 words of our mission, which is inspired to act. And quite honestly, that is what you do as a volunteer on the committee for Advocacy Day, is you are actually inspiring others to act. So it's a very lofty goal, but it brings with it tremendous satisfaction that you are helping others decide to raise their voice and to make a difference. And then just some other points there. Why we exist, access to care, as you can see, is top of the list there, support, community, and other things. We are here to support all people on their family building journey, and we support all family building options. So I am excited to introduce to you a brand new member. Well, she's been here a couple of months, a new member of the Resolve staff and the Resolve team, Aisha Adu. Aisha, wave for everybody so they know who you are. Aisha is our grassroots advocacy manager, and she works with Betsy Campbell, if you know Betsy. And Aisha and Betsy together really are the core of our team that work on our state advocacy all across the country. And Aisha also gets to manage, project manage Advocacy Day. So she is the staff point of contact as it relates to Advocacy Day. And then she interacts with a number of staff to ensure that the day runs smoothly and that everything is in its place. And of course, she it works very, very closely with all of you. So Aisha, we are so honored and pleased to have you here. And I'm going to turn it over to you as you get to introduce our co-chairs. And you are muted right now, so you might want to unmute yourself. There you go. All right.
All right.
Aisha.
Thank you
Hi.
for the introduction, Barb. Now I would like to introduce our 2023 Volunteer Committee co-chairs, Lisa Rosenthal and Ryan Ferrante. Lisa has been active with Resolve Advocacy Day since 2016, and she served as the co-chair last year. She has over 30 years of experience in the infertility field and has been with Illum Fertility for 15 years, where she serves as a patient advocate and senior content strategist. She also serves as treasurer on the board of directors at Resolve New England and is a member of the Affordable Families Coalition and the American Society of Reproductive Medicine. Ryan has been active with Resolve Advocacy Day since 2019. He also served as co-chair last year. He's also a reproductive law attorney with a unique perspective on the intersection of infertility, gestational surrogacy, and the law. His practice is focused on the representation of intended parents, gestational surrogates, and donors in all collaborative reproduction matters. So thank you so much, Ryan and Lisa, for joining us today. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm going to pop in there. I'll let Ryan have the second and last word, if that's okay. I just wanted to welcome, I feel so honored that I know quite a few of you already. This is a year, I think, that Ryan and I both feel like we're hitting our stride. Last year was our first year. This is our last year. And, we really understand things differently, partly because of everything that you've shared with us about what is needed in Advocacy Day. And obviously without Resolve, this doesn't happen, but we're really excited about having a very, very strong Advocacy Day. And we're starting, as you know, a little bit early. So welcome everyone. And I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you better. And those of you I don't know at all, certainly I'm looking forward to getting to know you as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be back. I love seeing all the faces that return. I like seeing new faces, but the faces that return. And it's a diverse group too. We've got Dr. Bernard, a former co-chair on here, and Joe Cody, and then a bunch of committee leads that were on this committee last year. That's really exciting to see. To anyone I haven't met yet, I can't wait to meet you. Lisa and I, like she said, we learned a lot last year, but more importantly, we learned so much in the review of Advocacy Day last year about ways that we can make this better. And we took your suggestions seriously, and we're going to implement a lot of those new ideas in this year's committee. One thing that will not change is that Lisa and I will remain available to you guys all the time. Before this is over, Lisa and I will put our phone numbers in the chat. And if you're watching this on a recording, we'll certainly make our contact information available to you guys. Thank you for joining us and considering joining the committee. I hope that the number of people returning is an indication that this is a time that you're going to look back on as very rewarding.
Okay, I think that's me. I want to just frame Advocacy Day for all of you that this is an event and a program that we do in partnership with the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. And I see several ASRM members on this call. Lisa mentioned her membership. I'm a member of ASRM, and as are many people on this call. American Society for Reproductive Medicine is also a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and they really are the scientific organization and represent, their membership represents physicians, attorneys, nurses, mental health providers, embryologists, really the whole ecosystem for our field. So we are honored to do this event with them. Aisha and I work closely with the government affairs staff on the determining the issues and so forth. And then ASRM really does a fantastic job of getting its members to participate and show up for Advocacy Day. So thank you to all of you ASRM members, and a big thank you to the organization itself. All right, I am now going to turn, oh, sorry, this is, I one more and then I will stop talking. So the Advocacy Day Volunteer Committee is made up of people who really care about this particular event and want to ensure that it is a fantastic experience for people, but that we advance our issues on Capitol Hill. We have a small staff at Resolve, and this committee is kind of additional arms and legs and brains of our collective community to really put on a fantastic experience and to ensure that our voice is heard and our issues advance in Congress. So it's a very wide spectrum of people who are on this volunteer committee. You just got introduced to Ryan and Lisa. Both of them have their own family building journey. Both of them have dedicated so much of their time to advocacy and advancing our issues. And so people on the committee are physicians, they work in clinics, they are people who are still on their family building journey. I know Joe Cody's on this call. He was chairing Advocacy Day and had his miracle baby right during the planning of Advocacy Day. And we have been known to have some volunteers on Advocacy Day deliver their babies. So it does happen. We have a lot of people who have resolved their infertility, who might be living child-free or who have built their family through adoption. We've even had some people on the volunteer committee who are friends and family of folks who have struggled with infertility and struggled with building their family. So it is such a wide range, and I know that you will enjoy meeting everybody and getting to know them. So let's jump right in, and I know you're dying to hear what in the world does the committee do and why should you join the committee. You should join the committee because it utilizes your skills and it really advances access. The bottom line is our goal in Advocacy Day is to advance our issues. Yes, we have a lot of fun, and yes, we make lifelong friends, and we get to raise our voice and do something incredibly meaningful. But we want to see real change happen, and we believe that there's opportunities in the United States Congress to make that happen. And we need all of you to help put this event together, because we want literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to participate in Advocacy Day from all 50 states. There are 535 members of Congress, and we would love it if every single one of them had a meeting and a visit with their constituents about our issues. So I leave you with kind of that lofty goal of really ensuring that our issues advance and that we make a real difference. People love being on the volunteer committee. It's really, for some people, many people, it's one of the most rewarding things that they do in their free time. So I encourage you to, as it says on here, step out of your comfort zone. There are some really important opportunities on this committee, and we want you to find your place. All right, let's see. I am going to, is this still me? Okay. No, this is not me. I am sorry. I have talked. And this was supposed to be Lisa. Lisa, take it away.
So the volunteers, thank you. I have my own set over here.
I was looking at the wrong slide, and it said my name on it, and I was on the wrong side, Lisa. So my apologies that I talked right over your slides.
No worries at all. And actually, Aisha, I have you for this slide, but I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it. So I'll go ahead. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. And Ryan, Aisha, and I are going to really find our way to working with each other, and it's already been a lovely process, and of course Barb and the rest of Resolve as well. So volunteer committee reminders. there is an application so that we have a good idea of what you're interested in, what your skill sets are, all those different things. It's a quick fill out. If you filled it out before, even if you have filled it out twice before, we want to give you an opportunity to do it again because you may be interested in something else. And we don't want to pigeonhole you just because you've always done one committee does not mean that you always want to be on that committee. So the the term limits of 2 consecutive years with a max of 3 years, we want to really make sure that we don't burn people out and that we also make sure that there's room for other people to be involved. What is absolutely 1,000% true is that there's room for everybody. So if you've been around for those 3 years, become a mentor or become a state captain or become a generalist, we want to use your institutional knowledge of Advocacy Day, of Resolve, of ASRM. So everybody's help is needed, wanted, and will be utilized. And we want to make sure that you all feel welcome. And Aisha, if there's anything else you want to pop on to say, please go right ahead. That was okay? Okay, so we'll go to the next slide then, please.
This is me.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start talking about these subcommittees. We have within the greater volunteer committee, we tried to assign specific roles and tasks to the subcommittees, and we tried to assign volunteers to a committee that's the best fit for them or something that's most interesting to them. We certainly want to accommodate the interests and the time that people have to volunteering on the committee. We've tried to narrow the focus of the committee so that the mission of each of the subcommittees that you're looking at is clearly defined. Once the application process that Lisa just mentioned is closed, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're matching each member of the committee on a subcommittee that is most appealing to them. Okay. First, we have the state captain coordinators. I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail on the next slide. But this committee, I think anybody who's been on the volunteer committee before, the state captain subcommittee is really the backbone of our efforts to organize and stay organized. Okay. Second, our engagement subcommittee. If you've ever been on this volunteer committee before, you've participated in the really thoughtfully crafted social events and other events designed to connect everyone on the committee together. Okay. That's the engagement committee. But another goal of the engagement subcommittee is to work closely with the state captain coordinators to help us avoid redundancies and sort of craft a plan that balances the need to keep our advocates informed and educated, but not overwhelm them, right? We may not achieve that perfect balance, but we're going to try. And with the help from this engagement subcommittee, we want to sort of contemplate creative ways of providing these resources through the Facebook group, the toolkits, or other channels that we may not yet have thought about. Third, the follow-through subcommittee, Lisa's baby. In years past, we had referred to this subcommittee as the follow-up committee, but last year, we shifted our sort of characterization of these efforts from follow-up to follow-through, okay? We're never gonna see the real change that we want unless we stay focused on day one after Advocacy Day. And that's gonna require a team of people dedicated to seeing through the necessary follow-up to our efforts. Listen, we all know how awesome it is to celebrate the night of Advocacy Day, maybe take a few hours off, but the work has to continue. And some of our most important successes in the past have only been possible because of a commitment to following up. It's a simple idea that Lisa certainly wants more than anything else to follow through. I think everyone would agree that there's always room to improve or enhance these efforts. And I think that there's a real opportunity here for a number of committee members to make a significant impact. The letters and volunteer subcommittee, our goal every year is to collect more letters year over year from constituents to put in the hands of each member of Congress prior to our meetings on Advocacy Day. It really does have an enormous impact on the meeting itself when members of Congress hear our stories and also know that there are hundreds or thousands more just like us asking for their help. We haven't yet set our goal for this, but only know that our goal is to overwhelm offices with as many letters as we can. Okay. Fifth, underrepresented states. We learned that we really do need to, we learned last year that we really do need to have a committee that's focused on targeting states that historically have not had the Advocacy Day attendance that we hoped. We're looking for innovative ways to reach new advocates in those states that need voices on Advocacy Day. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but this is the committee I personally am most excited about because it's these efforts that are so important to being able to see real change. And I plan to spend a lot of time with this group. So this is the one that is most appealing to me. If I was joining the volunteer committee for the first time, underrepresented states is where I would be focused. Six, our military recruitment subcommittee is really the prime example of how fresh ideas can be turned into change. Last year, Julie Eshelman, who's on this call, and the rest of that committee created this subcommittee from scratch. And they delivered engaging and educational content to the committee at large. In addition, they focused on recruiting advocates that can speak to the impact of infertility on our servicemen and women. The recruiting is going to include outreach to military personnel and organizations asking if they would be interested in participating in Advocacy Day and preparing any new advocates for Advocacy Day. Finally, if you don't know what may be the best fit for you on a very specific subcommittee, we've created this general subcommittee so that you can sort of volunteer for a role where there is a need. I certainly didn't know where the best fit was for me when I first joined the volunteer committee, and there was a need on the state captain subcommittee. I'm glad I raised my hand and said, use me where you need me, because that ended up being the perfect fit for me. So if you don't have your sights set on a very particular specific subcommittee, please know that we always need a very deep bench, at least at the outset in January. And it starts right here with this generalist subcommittee. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Oh, this is me too. Okay, so state captain program. The state captain program's importance is, it really can't be understated, but it's sort of best explained in terms of the history of it. Pre-pandemic, we would gather in Washington on the day before Advocacy Day in person, and only then would you meet your state captain for your state delegation and the rest of your state's delegation of volunteers. Advocacy Day sort of came together very quickly for advocates, and it was much easier to do it that way when you're all in person. So the pandemic obviously forced us to sort of rethink how we prepare our delegation of advocates. As we always had, we relied on our existing framework of state captains leading the delegations, but we needed a communication structure that helped us share information effectively all the way in the lead up to Advocacy Day. So at the top of this state captain organizational structure is the state captain subcommittee, okay? And that is made up of what we anticipate to be 2 leads of the state captain subcommittee and then regional coordinators underneath them. So each member of the state captain subcommittee will be a dedicated regional coordinator who will guide a group of state captains in their region through the recruiting and education process, and in turn The state captains will then lead their delegations through Advocacy Day orientations, organize the delegation for Advocacy Day, and sort of be a single point of contact for your assigned delegation, okay? So therefore, the first step will be to identify the state captain subcommittee, who will also be the regional coordinators to identify and prepare the state captains. This is a really awesome opportunity to help shape the efforts on Advocacy Day and get really intimately involved with states beyond your own, okay? Not to mention, you're going to meet an extraordinary number of really great people, and you're going to create the functionality of Advocacy Day. There are no requirements to be on this committee other than to be organized, okay? We can move on to the next slide.
So we're going to actually jump backwards because the operator, me, has somehow missed a couple of slides. One of them being, when is Advocacy Day? So Aisha, I'm going to work the slide here, and I'm going to have you jump in and let's see if we can get this to go backwards. It's not going backwards. Hold on. There we go. Bear with me. I got to get to the slide because it's a drum roll. We got to get to it. Okay, let's see if I can do it from there. Oh, something's wrong. Hold on.
Can we go ahead with the overview of the state of Advocacy Day?
Let's see. I can't do backwards. There we go. Okay, we have a slide that's not showing up. That's what's happened. Our slide with Advocacy Day. Isha, take it away. Tell them what Advocacy Day is.
Okay, great.
The slide is not showing.
So we're really excited to say that Advocacy Day will be on April 25th, 2023. That will be a Tuesday. It will be virtual, and most importantly, it will be during NIAW, or National Infertility Awareness Week. And it's, of course, occurring a month earlier than we originally had it this year, but we think that it's going to be really amazing, and having it a little bit earlier will actually allow us to do a lot more than maybe we would have before.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in there on that, Aisha, it's really exciting that it is during National Infertility Awareness Week, so that it can be a large focus of what that week is, and that we can really push for that. Barb knows I've been wanting this for, I don't know, a long time, a long time. So it's really exciting that it's during National Infertility Awareness Week. I think we're going to be able to really leverage this in ways that we have not been able to leverage the day before.
Volunteer committee promise.
This is Lisa.
I'm here. I am here. So the volunteer committee promise. When Ryan and I say that we are available, we mean it. We mean it. And we mean that we understand how valuable your time is, and that we value you, your time, your effort, and your energy. I'm not including Aisha here only because we want you to lean into us. We want to lean into Aisha when we need to. We want her to be able to do her job and her work. So consider Ryan and I sort of your front line. You know, as a volunteer, it's been said, there's no way to do this without any of you. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a decent amount of work, folks. Like I'm not, Ryan's probably kicking me under the table, but it's a virtual table, so I'm all right. But truthfully, this is a decent amount of work. And one of the things that we've changed, just for you to know, is that we have co-chairs on every committee so that there is less of a burden. And the idea of how many people can we get involved so that there is less work and there is less of a challenge for each person. But your time will be respected. And what I will always say, which has been true of Resolve for as long as I've been involved in this organization, and what is always true is we will understand if you need to step back, step out, if you need help, if you need support, if you need to do something different than what you originally commit to. We understand that our lives change rapidly and all of that. And you do come first as a human being, right? This experience is multifold. It is to get laws changed. It is to get laws changed. It is to bring awareness. It is to have you have an experience that makes you want to come back the year after. So it's very heartening, I think, to both Ryan and I to see so many people from last year, because we met that goal. If you're here again, we met that goal. And the last one is, right, your family building and your mental health are a priority. We will always have a deep enough bench that we will be able to handle what's needed. So make the commitment with the best of intentions. We'll be here to support you, and know that you're just so valuable. One thing we skipped, Barb, was just Ryan and my reasons for doing this. Infertility changed my life, completely changed my life. This is what it's made my life. And coming to advocacy days and doing this kind of work with Resolve for decades now, it's meaningful. It's important when we speak to our legislators, when we speak to each other. This is one of the most important things that we'll ever go through in our lives. I was speaking to a colleague today and talking about when there's a lack of empathy for somebody dealing with infertility, I just asked them to think about these three things. Imagine a situation that feels out of control, that is incredibly painful, and that has no clear ending. And that's what a lot of us in this situation feel. And one of the wonderful changes as well that happened due to, Resolve's brilliance last year was moving more towards a story. And so we're going to be sharing our stories. And, part of, Ryan's got his story, I've got my story. We're here because infertility has affected us and continues to do so. So from there, we'll go to the next slide, which I hope is, the goals. So I'm going to take the first three, Ryan, you get the last three, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so as Ryan mentioned earlier, the follow-through committee is going to be even more important than this year, than it was in 2022. Yes, it was absolutely the thing I cared most about, and we were being recorded. So COVID kicked my butt, not my kicked my butt, and I wasn't able to do some of the things that I wanted to do and that I wanted us to do, but that's going to be different this year. The fact that it is during NIAW, the fact that it is in such a precarious time of history with reproductive health care access, I can't imagine a more important year to be doing advocacy. Increasing bipartisan support, right? There's a lot of bipartisan support out there. Don't assume that because a legislator is this or that they're not going to support these bills. In fact, these bills are beautifully, carefully written to garner bipartisan support. And the advocate representation from all 50 states. I was very lucky 2 years ago to have chaired the underrepresented states, and we had all 50 states represented that year, and we're going to have that again this year. One of the beautiful things about doing this virtually is that it is so accessible. We don't have to fly somebody in from Alaska or Hawaii or Montana or Idaho or any of the farther reaches of the country. So getting that representation means all of the people here, even, who do you know? A family member, a friend, a colleague who lives in a state. And don't worry, we all know the states by heart that we have trouble with. Same states pretty much every year. And we're just going to keep, knocking on those doors to make sure that we do represent them. And Ryan, I'll let you take it from there.
I'm just, the fourth and fifth ones are sort of woven into that same fabric you're just
Okay.
talking about. This is, these are, this goes back to the underrepresented states committee that I'm most excited about. While we focus on increasing participation in the states with inadequate representation, we are increasing the advocate representation in never before represented districts. And one way to do that is to identify creative ways. And this is where we look to you, the committee, for creative ways to identify people who've never been involved before, doctors, lawyers, patients, whoever it may be, and get them involved. And lastly, but most importantly, the goal of this committee should always be to foster an experience that gives advocates that same feeling that each of us had the first time that we met with a member of Congress, to tell them that if their job is to pass laws that will help the citizens of this country, boy, do we have something to tell them. Okay. We can go to the last slide for some questions, I think.
So please feel free to either ask the question out loud or put a question in the chat. We have a few minutes for questions. And by the way, also those of you who have been around for, a rodeo or two, if you have some things that maybe you'd like to add to what's been said tonight, please feel free to do that as well.
Aisha, there's a slide that's not showing up and we can't figure out why in the PowerPoint, but Aisha is going to go through it right now. It gives a little bit of an outline of the overall structure.
Yeah, so this slide is the volunteer committee structure. This year we'll be having 2 co-chairs. Of course, you've met them, Ryan and Lisa. We'll be having subcommittee co-leads, volunteer committee members in subcommittees, mentors. That'll be a good program, the state captains, and many roles can have co-leads as well. This is just to alleviate some of the pressure or work on other people, to have 2 people actually handling the workload. And as of now, the applications are open. They will be due in 2 weeks. Please take the time to fill them out and let us know how you would like to be a part of Advocacy Day. And of course, contact me, Ryan, and Lisa if you have any questions. I will also put the link to the applications in the chat right now.
So hi, I'm Taylor. I'm been on this rodeo, to use Lisa's word, for a little bit, but unfortunately I don't remember. You all allude to some states that are maybe a little bit less engaged, and I'd be interested to be reminded of those states and maybe a strategy of how we can re-engage them, and if there are neighboring states that can help do that.
Yeah, I can give you one example. This is one example of many, but we'll use Kentucky as an example. Okay, 2 years ago, we had a really great group from Kentucky. We had a number of advocates who were engaged and seemed to be excited, not just about the short-term effort of Advocacy Day, but the long-term effort of the enduring Advocacy Day. We didn't have that same response last year. I don't know if that was because we didn't focus on underrepresented states like Kentucky last year specifically, but that's one example. The Kentuckys, the West Virginias, Taylor, it's a list of usual suspects, to be quite honest. I mean, we know that we're going to have a number of advocates from California and Massachusetts and Illinois and New York, right? Because that's
Connecticut.
Connecticut. I'm not excluding anyone. Those are the ones that just come to my head. But the states that the underrepresented states that I think we need to start thinking about now are those that are, quite frankly, the same ones every year. Kentucky, Idaho, no offense, Amber, Wyoming. We can put the list together, but we haven't. Alaska. Thank you, Julie. I mean, we even have a nice number of advocates in Hawaii, but it's always seems to be the same states.
So is there a plan for attack on these states?
Not yet, but that's going to be the focus of the Underrepresented States Committee. That's going to be the plan. The plan is to focus on those very specific states, and we're looking for really creative ideas about how we perform outreach in those areas.
And Ryan, that's one of your committees.
I mean, I'm going to be focused there. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Okay.
Ryan and Lisa are overseeing everyone. So we need two people to co-lead the underrepresented subcommittee. So
And Taylor, you would be awesome at that.
So if that is something that interests you, go fill out the application, put on there that you're interested in that underrepresented committee. And as Lisa said, she very successfully ran that subcommittee in 2020, I think. And because 2021, sorry. And so you have her resource right there. Amber, you have your hand raised.
I do. So have you guys decided the legislation that you are going to be promoting for 2023? Is it the same as last year? Will it be different?
So January is a new Congress, so we'll have to see what is introduced, what bills have been introduced by the time we have Advocacy Day in April. Generally, in a new Congress, it takes a few months for offices and for the whole legislative process to start working. So we'll have to see if our champions, number one, are in Congress and what bills are being introduced. So Amber, it's going to be a whole new game come January. And but as Ryan and Lisa have said, the format that we used in 2022 in this year, which was very focused on personal stories and sharing your story, and the litany of list of issues was less so. We're going to continue to do that. But yeah, we're going to have to see what happens in Congress and what our message bills is by the time we get to the end of April. And the good news on that is that as bills get introduced throughout the legislative session, it'll be an opportunity for you to go back to your legislators and say, hey, I met you in April. It's now September. This bill just got introduced. I support it. I want you to sign on. That's what you're going to be doing throughout the year is keeping that contact with the legislators. And that's where Lisa was talking about that follow through and how important that subcommittee is going to be as well. Leah.
Hi, I've been a volunteer before and I'm interested in being more engaged, but concerned about the kind of level of engagement and some of what you spoke about today in terms of just my, availability. The last thing I'd want to do is commit to being a part of something and then, not being able to follow through. Is there anywhere I could get some more information, or is it in the application and I just missed it or haven't seen it? Just about like the commitment for each of these, how many hours, that kind of thing to make a better, more informed decision.
It's a good question. If there is a particular interest, and I'm going to let Lisa comment on this as well. If there's a particular interest that you have, we can talk more specifically about the commitment that you'd be making. But I can just tell you, for example, if you were interested in the state captain coordinators, that is a role that requires a more significant time commitment as we get closer to Advocacy Day. Not so much right now. So I think each committee has its own time commitment, but also when the time commitment is necessary. Like the follow-through committee, unless you're doing something from last year, the follow-through committee is really just sort of hurrying up and waiting, right? Sort of a hurry up and wait committee where they're just getting ready to follow through and follow up on everything that we've done up to Advocacy Day. So the timing of it should be a consideration, I think.
Thank you.
I know that I'm not answering your question directly, but it's not, I couldn't, I would say, once the calendar turns to 2023, I would say it's a couple hours a week, because we start to plan for weekly meetings. We do bi-weekly meetings, and then as we get closer, we do weekly meetings for the committee at large. And then you're going to have your own subcommittee meetings, which should take place weekly as well. So
Yeah, those are the kind of questions I was actually wondering in terms of that.
Yeah.
So that's helpful.
yeah,
Thank you.
And Aisha, I wonder if you could speak to the fact that we actually have kind of removed the committee. Simi Bookall, and if you don't know Simi, I'm sorry, because she's amazing, and you will get to know her, has actually taken a committee off of our plate. But my experience, Leah, also is that you give the time that you can give. Something is like, if you have an hour a week, then your committee will find something for you to do an hour a week. If you have an hour every other week, we will find something to do. Truth is, there's plenty of work. There is plenty of work to do, and it can really be tailored to what you have to offer. And Amber, it is challenging to not know what the bills are until shortly before. I sometimes feel like sending Barb a sympathy package, because it's got to be hard to be asked that question all the time and not know the answers, and how frustrating it is on all sides. And I think that by turning to the stories and having and doing this earlier in the legislative session, so that follow through is actually really effective, I think that is a game plan that hopefully will make all of us who feel frustrated with that a little less frustrated. Barb, if you want to pop in on that, whether you agree with that or whether that might be true, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, it's, I think when you think about just overall the issues and so forth, and the time commitment, and you're kind of thinking about all these things, our goal is to make the best use of all of our advocates' time on April 25th in the most strategic way. So I'm just kind of trying to make this very big picture here. So we're going to look at what's going on in Congress. We're going to look at what's going on in the country. We're going to look at what our bill sponsors are telling us. And we have this group of people who are going to be talking to their members of Congress on a particular day. How can we strategically make the highest and best use of all of those voices at one time? And so that's at that moment in time. So those are all the things that are sort of driving our decision making on what actually happens on Advocacy Day. I will say, going back to the question on the committee and times and so forth, we're doing this the end of April. So February, March, and April, we're going to be busy. And if other than the folks that are on the follow-through committee, we're going to be busy. State captains, it's a big commitment. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's one of the coolest things. It's also a huge commitment. And if you have things in your life that are really busy and hectic in March and April, don't be a state captain, because March and April are going to be really busy and important for our state captains to be organized. Ryan said it. It's one of the jobs that you need to be most organized. If you want to have something that's a little more spread out, email advocacyday@resolve.org and say, look, I don't have a lot of time in April, but I have a ton of time in January and February. I'm just making that up. Tell us that. And Ryan and Lisa can help guide you to a volunteer opportunity that is more aligned with your timing.
Right. And including the generalists and reservists. I mean, that's a wonderful place. Like if you say, I'm good if you call me and let me know that in 2 weeks you're going to need some extra help. I mean, I think we didn't, correct me if you disagree, Ryan. I'm not sure that we use those folks as much as we could have, should have, and as much as I'd like to this year, right? Because they're wonderful group. And that might be something as well. That's not a firm commitment, a weekly, monthly commitment. That might be a good place for you as well.
All right. How are we doing on questions? Aisha?
There's a question in the chat from
I can
Julie.
ask it.
Oh, go ahead, Julie.
I was looking at the volunteer committee application. Where should somebody indicate that they are military connected, or what committee they're interested in serving on? Is that just in the comments?
You're asking on the application where you put what committee you're interested in. It should be on the application, right, Aisha?
Yes, it should be, but you can, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, if it's not, just put something in the comments. If you've heard something tonight that's interesting to you, just put it in the comments. We're gonna consider it whether it's a question or in the comments itself.
All right. Aisha, you get the last word.
To wrap it up, I guess, thank you everyone for joining. I do see a couple of more questions. Barb, would you like to answer, or we can get back to people individually in email? How would you like to finish this off?
Let's do the questions. I didn't know there were more questions.
All right.
Yeah. Elaine Meyer asked, where do you see the greatest need? Everywhere. But we need state captain coordinators. That's always a really big need. Follow through committee, underrepresented states. I mean, really all of them, but I think that those are the three that I'm most focused on right now. So I'm just trying to imagine a team of people that are focused on those efforts.
Yeah. We should also probably really consider that the timeline for the follow-through committee is distinctly different, right? They're going to start later and they're going to go past Advocacy Day. So that's a committee that may be more suited to some of you. And that committee really, we're going to need to get that organized and get that set up.
And then Meredith asked about when the volunteer committee meetings are going to start. The applications close November 1st. Ryan and Lisa, your thoughts on when the committees the main committee will start meeting?
We will definitely be meeting before the end of the year, and planning for January. So I would anticipate at least one meeting before the end of the year, just so we can sort of set expectations about what the calendar is going to look like once January 1st comes.
Joe has a question about the mentor program and your vision for that, Ryan and Lisa.
I think it's going to depend on how many mentors we get. How many, Joe, I'm nominating you. Mentor number one.
This is why you don't ask questions, Joe Cody. You know that.
I already filled out the form.
Oh, good.
That's the kind of guy you are.
Yeah. I'm glad that you asked the question, Joe, because I think that that's something that me, you, and Lisa should probably bang our heads together on, to think about the best approach for the best use of really experienced advocates like you.
Aisha put together a beautiful flow chart. It makes me happy whenever I look at it. It's wonderful. And I envision doing that really for the entire day and lead up to the day. I think that'll be really helpful to conflate that with the timeline. Because I believe that mentors was another group that we probably could be leaning in more with, and that this is the year to do that.
Yeah. Joe, at one very specific example of the way that I see mentors best being used is having them focus their efforts on state captains who are maybe new, maybe only have a year under their belt as a state captain, really sort of foster the leadership of the delegation. I think we've got to focus on that communication structure, and I think that any mentor should be paired up with a state captain to make sure that they don't have any needs in sort of educating their own delegation.
And you know, going back to Elaine's question, where's the most need? If this was up to me, I would say that every state should have 2 state captains. But when we don't even, when we're not even getting one person volunteering to advocate, we can't, you know, necessarily have that. But that's what I would love to see. So maybe that underrepresented state, you know, it would be great to see twice as many volunteers this year as many advocates, so that we could have 2 state captains. I know we did that in Connecticut this year. It worked really, really well. It was terrific. They leaned in, they learned a lot about the job. It was a good experience.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree. It's a lot of work, and co-leads on a state captain would be fantastic. All right, I think that's it for the questions in the chat. Anybody else? Last chance.
So I'd like to jump in and say that I'm very excited. There's been a lot of lift in this conversation in terms of responsibility, but so to turn that around, this is amazing to be part of this group and to be part of these efforts that do something that's meaningful and important to all of us. So I'm very grateful to be part of this conversation. And so thank you for inviting us and hosting this. This is very exciting work. Thank you.
It is.
We are grateful for you, Taylor.
Yes, we are. We are.
All right, I'm gonna give it back.
And by the way, you just signed yourself up for a whole bunch of responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Aisha, turn it back to you again. Try one more time on the last word.
All right, I already see some notifications about applications coming in, so thank you. That's really exciting. But just to close out, thank you so much for taking the time to join the meeting or to just ask your questions, or if you're just watching this actually and it's recorded. We really look forward to reading your applications and working with all of you this year. I have high hopes for what we will be able to achieve. And good night.
Thanks, Aisha.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.